Hey friends, so welcome to DBC Inc. Live. We have a special edition. It is National Poetry Month, or Poetry Month around the world, honestly. Hopefully it's Poetry Month everywhere. But we are really excited to have Mike Johnston on the show today. He is going to be talking to us every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time throughout the month of April, and really just elaborating and sharing resources and helping us to extend our knowledge when it comes to poetry and how it is a part of every part of our day. So Mike is actually the author of one of our brand new books, You Are Poetry, and we are super pumped up about this book. And if you didn't catch the book birthday live, wow, you need to go back and check the video. It's amazing. He was just so excited about the book and sharing it out with the world, and people are just getting really excited about the content within. So we wanted to have a special show every Tuesday night to give Mike the mic, and allow him to share a little bit more about what is this idea of poetry being You Are Poetry, and what is this idea of poetry fitting in no matter where we are at in the world, and how do we all like get that poet out of us, right? And share it with the world too. So Mike, please do tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and then we'll allow everybody to introduce yourself. So if you're joining us today, please do tell us who you are and where you're from, and then we'll dive into some content.
Sure. I think it is international, like, I don't know if anyone actually calls it International Poetry Month, but I think every nation calls it National Poetry Month. Like, I've seen it from around the world, so I'm pretty safe saying that a lot of people are buying into national, international, whatever you want to call it, Poetry Month. So I'm really stoked to have this opportunity. It's a really great time. I'm Mike Johnston. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, right in the center of the prairies, which is fantastic. It's a great place to be right now. Our weather is really turning fantastic, which is great. I'm very, very proud to have had the book birthday not too long ago. And I'm really excited that we get to have these conversations for the next couple of Tuesdays, because one of the biggest things about the book, I'm really lucky that I have a lot of educator friends who are very supportive. Hi, how you doing? I'm sorry, I can't resist saying hi to people who say hi.
You're fine.
I'm super excited to have the opportunity to sort of meet some of the challenges. Like, I have a lot of really supportive friends who are like, I am going to buy the book, but I'm a science teacher. And so I'm going to pass it off to my ELA friends. And I'm going to buy the book, but I'm an administrator, so I'm going to make sure it gets to the right people. And I'm like, you are the right people. So as much as it has been really exciting to have that much support, I'm very excited about the challenge of people saying, I don't see the poet in myself yet. So I feel like we have a couple of Tuesdays together to really sort of like show people that there is, poets and poetry like literally everywhere. So we're really going to try and do a couple of really interesting sessions that way.
And I'm really excited about what you're going to be sharing. Kristen, thanks for joining us. And I see there's a few of you in here that haven't introduced yourself, so I'm hoping that you do. We would love to hear from you and know who's joining us today. But keep in mind, we do hope that from each of these shows, there are ideas that Mike shares, there's strategies, there's things that you can take away and actually apply in your learning setting. And we have planned it very specifically to do just that for you. So Sean, thanks for joining us. Monica, we're excited that you're here.
Thanks, guys.
Yes. Okay, and I'm going to give the floor over to Mike. He's going to be sharing for a little while, then I'll come back in and we'll take questions. So if you have some ideas for questions, I might flash them on the screen. Mike is going to continue on with his content, and at the end, I'm going to go back and add those questions back in, and we'll have some question answer time then. So I want you to know that those are very valid questions. We want to hear them, and we'll be flashing them up on the screen. But Mike's going to continue on with his content, and we'll be answering those at the end with Mike, okay?
That actually was a huge part of the passion for me was the idea that I could give something to people that they could really tangibly use. I have always been a huge fan of PD that gets you really excited for what you can do on a Monday morning. Like when you go to a PD on a Friday and you stew all weekend about what Monday morning is going to look like because of it. So I really wanted to have this book be an opportunity to have everyone have a moment that they're just really excited for implementation. So I like that challenge. I love that already. You know, we've got Monica in the chat who is like, rhymes are my daily bread in pre-K. Like I'm happy you're here, but I want you to come back in a couple of weeks when I'll be talking about how math and poetry are like the same thing, and like all of those rhymes and rhythms. Absolutely, like it's everywhere, which gets me so excited. So I'm just super pumped about all this, and the idea is really tangible takeaways from those pieces. So I kind of wanted to talk about things that would sort of evolve meetings, would sort of evolve daily interactions with people that you work with staff and students. And I wanted to sort of really give tangible examples about how to do that, how to make poetry part of the daily being of who you are. What I want to do, what my biggest passion is I really want to change the language around poetry. I want to change how people see it. I like that poetry is not so much a thing that you do, but a commitment to understanding each other. It really, for me, really is the skill set that sort of evolves around emotional literacy. But the idea of studying poetry is applicable too. Like when we sit down and we study a poem in ELA, and I think that's primarily what people sort of wrap their heads around, is like studying poetry. There's a lot of key ideas in there, because when you sit down to study a poem, one of the things you ask yourself is, what is the poet trying to say? What is this poet feeling? And how do we know, right? We take the time to look at these poetry pieces and ask ourselves the questions to try to understand the people that write these pieces and the things that are going on as they're being written. So what my hope is that we can take poetry and take it out of the looking at a poem and breaking it down context and put it into how we interact with people. So here's what I mean. You see a sign. Oh my goodness, a science poetry contest sounds amazing. I'm all about it. We're gonna do science as poetry too. Super excited. Sorry, my apologies. I just jump all over. I get super excited. So I kind of wanted to talk about how we could take things like staff meetings and morning meetings and those little check-ins that we do with students and make them into more of an emotional literacy experience, right? How to be cognizant of the fact that understanding people's experiences on an emotional level, like that's poetry, right? So I wanted to talk really specifically about one activity that I have done at a couple of different staff meetings where I've been sort of brought in and asked to sort of take a staff meeting and make it poetry. And I think about this a lot when administrators are like, you know, I'm not sure about how I could be a poet. I have the exact story for you. So what I did was I set up just 5 different spaces in the room, and I had people understand that those 5 spaces would be tangible emotional spaces. So I numbered them 1 to 5, and I said, okay, we're all going to stand up. This is pre-COVID, so we got to stand close to each other, which was nice. But everyone stood up, and I said, whatever you are feeling right now, from numbers 1 to 5, that's where you're going to be. And I explained that number 1 was like real low, right? If we're talking like the stories on a house, your house is currently ground floor. Like all you can see is the dirtiness of the street. It doesn't feel great. The air quality, not awesome, right? You don't feel very high up. But a 5, you are up in the penthouse and everything looks great. Everything feels wonderful. So I had people go and stand in like-minded groupings from numbered 1 to 5 emotional settings. So we had a couple of people who in that moment were very 1, right? And a couple of people who were like, yeah, you know, I don't know how I'm feeling. I'm going to stand with the 3s, and a couple of people who were very 5. They had had a really fantastic day. And then what I asked them to do is not to try and tell the whole story of why they were doing what they were doing, but I really asked them to think of a couple of words, right? To think of a couple of words about why they were standing in those spaces. And then to take those words and to have somebody write them all down, and then they would just say those words in unison, right? Not in unison, but in layers. We would take it from one, and we would hear what the ones had to say. We would hear some of the words from the twos and the threes and the fours and the fives. And here's where it became magic. So the very first thing that was said from a one group where somebody was feeling very, very low, the first thing they said was, "My daughter." And that was it. That's fine. That's all we needed was a couple of words, because like poetry is compressed form emotional literacy. So the first words that were said, "My daughter." And then we had a bunch of other things, words about how they were feeling, right? Stress, report cards, license, things like this, like things that raised a lot of questions and started a lot of conversations. But then the very last thing that was said, the very last words that were put into the poem was "my daughter." So the first words, as somebody who was sitting at a 1 said "my daughter," and then somebody who was sitting at a 5 said "my daughter." And then we had this big conversation where all of a sudden people in the room were like, hold on, we're all feeling things, and some of them are the same and some of them are different. And we actually stopped the staff meeting, and instead of continuing on with the things that were bullet form, we took a good solid 10 minutes to talk about those connections, and we found other people in the room and asked them to elaborate and pull forward on those singular words, because that's where the connection was. So it turned out that the person who was in the 1, right, the person who was in the 1 had said "my daughter" because they had just learned that their daughter was sick. Their day was fantastic, and then at the end of the day, they got a phone call that their daughter was quite ill, and that just bottomed them out. And yet the person in the 5 had said "my daughter" because she knew that when she was done the staff meeting, she would go home and her daughter was coming home for the first time in weeks. So all those little pieces in there, instead of having a staff meeting where you just ask people to check in and ask people how they were doing, by creating an emotional context that had a structure to it, you created a poem in the room. Like we created a poem in the room together where everyone felt like they could contribute singularly in like a couple of words here or there. But then we also, like, there was this moment where people really sort of understood each other. So from that moment, I do the same thing quite often in my morning meetings with my junior high kids. We have different points around the room and everything. We also use something called the zones of regulation. So we actually use colors instead of numbers now. We use, the blue zone and the green zone and the yellow zone and the red zone, where they go and sort of stand where they feel like they would be. We check in virtually now. We don't all go stand in the same spaces, but that's how we sort of write our poems together. Like once a week, once every 2 weeks, we have an emotional, let's write a poem together, where we sort of clock the emotion of the room and collectively sort of put our experience together on paper and really sort of connect and create that way. And then I keep the poems, and then we sort of reflect on them together later on, and they're pretty cool. Christine. Absolutely. And that's what I want to get to next. So Christine brings up an excellent point. There are a couple of things that I want to jump on with that. One word, brilliant. But I want to address 2 things about the one word. One, I have some students who even one word is too much. That's a lot. So I'd like to offer a little tech tip. Every time we get together, I'd like to make sure that people understand that poetry and technology are also BFFs. So my little tech tip for you this time is a really cool website called You Teach App. Okay. It's a really, really great. Let's see if I can bring it up here. I'll post it for you. It's the You Teach app. You go to youteachapp.com, I believe it is. And it's this really great little piece where it actually allows students to use their devices and anonymously. There you go. Thanks. I really appreciate that for tossing it in there. That app allows people to contribute their words anonymously. So you have to be emotionally mindful that there will always be people in the room who feel really comfortable getting up and sharing with each other. If you're with a staff of grown-ups, it's usually pretty safe because there's a lot of trust in those rooms for the most part, because they're grown-ups and they understand each other in really big ways. So with my middle school guys, sometimes we use the UTeach app because it allows them to anonymously put numbers and colors and words up on the board. So I'll have the criteria and I'll say, if you're feeling like you're in the yellow today, please put yellow and then give me 3 words today. Okay, give me 3 words about why you're feeling yellow. And they can be any word, like there's no limit, because that way you can have somebody who says, I am sad and wants to be really constructive. And you have somebody who's feeling yellow and feeling goofy and just wants to put 3 words like, banana, dishwasher, puppy, like, why did you put that? That's just how I'm feeling. And that's okay. That's okay, because it really sort of checks in with them. It gets the emotional temperature of the room checked, which is phenomenal. 7-word memoir. That's where I'm going to. Kristen, totally stealing my ideas. I love it. Kristen is phenomenal. 6 words is what I was actually going to go for. 7 is it's a little bit less of a challenge than what I was going to suggest. We participated in a really, really great project called the 6-word story, which is actually pretty like it's something that was kind of a big thing. I didn't invent the 6-word story. 6-word story has been around in poetry for a very, very long time, which is phenomenal. So actually what I've pushed for administrators to do, and what I have been pushing for my own class, instead of sitting down with somebody and saying to them, how you doing? What's going on? Okay. A lot of people are pretty conditioned to hear the question, how are you doing? And they just respond with like, good or okay. Okay. So when I let people know that we're going to have an emotional check-in, we're going to have like a 6-word check-in, I get them to write a 6-word poem. And I push for this with administrators too. If you're going to have a meeting with somebody and you really want to check in with your staff, don't give them different ways of telling you that they're good or okay, right? So what I do is I challenge them. I say, send them an email. Send them an email that says, you know what? We're going to meet later today. And what I need from you is I need you to give me the 6 words that you would absolutely need to tell your story right now, right? So if you want to meet with them about their school year, tell them you need the 6-word story of their school year. It doesn't even have to be like, you don't have to construct it properly. Just say, give me the 6 words that you need to tell your story right now. And that's one of the most powerful things I've had success with in my class, is where I let the kids know, I have 24 brilliant kids in my homeroom class. And then by extension, I have like 4 or 5 other classes that I teach. I have about 120 kids that I interact with on the regular. But my core 24, they know that we do a 6-word check-in. And I tell them, okay, end of the day today, I'm going to call you up. We're going to have individual meetings here. And you're going to give me the 6 words that are essential to tell the story of your life right now. Okay. And there's no limitations to it. They just have to bring the 6 words up. They decide, right? The only limitation is that it has to be truthful. I've got this nice piece of writing up. I believe it's a Hemingway quote that says, good writing is true writing. So the only thing I ever ask of them is that it has to be truthful. Bring me 6 words that are your truest words that you absolutely need to tell the story of you right now. So that's what I'm trying to sort of bring across with this You Are Poetry piece, is that there are these moments where if we sort of change the way that we're approaching things, there are moments for poetry. There are moments for condensed emotional language, condensed emotional literacy everywhere. We just need to sort of change the way that we approach it. And I challenge you to sort of take these things that I've given you today and just try it out. I had a conversation with a colleague at my school who ordered the book and was like, I love this book. It's so great. I think the only thing I'm missing is courage. And I'll tell you, one, having courage to do anything new always pays off, because you always feel like, even if it's not a success, putting yourself out there, that makes the back strong. You can carry a lot more after that. But if it works, right? If you have a moment where you ask a student for 6 words, or if you ask a colleague, I'm going to talk to you later today and you're going to bring me 6 words that tell the story of your life, the amount of connection, the amount of power that you give them, letting them know, I don't want you to say good. I don't want you to say okay. I want you to tell me 6 words that mean everything to who you are right now. Man, when it works, whew, poetry all day.
So powerful too. I'm loving that so many of you are like, I am doing this. Christine is like, I'm doing this with my staff tomorrow. I'll let you know how it goes. I hope they transfer it.
Christine, that would be amazing. Let me know. I'm sorry, I got so wrapped up that I wasn't even reading on the chat.
No, you're fine. That's what I'm here for. Kristen is also going to try some of this month to celebrate and work with her students.
I love it.
Holly mentioned something earlier about waves. I thought this was interesting. She does something similar with her waves unit.
Yeah, poetry of waves. That's amazing.
That's pretty cool, huh?
We do molecular poetry in one of our science units. Oh my goodness, we got to talk.
We are having another, so that is exciting. We're going to save some of our awesomeness from Mike. We don't want to give everything that he knows in one session. We're going to do this every single Tuesday, and we have several set up. We have poetry is, what's next, Mike? Poetry is science is next.
Yeah, poetry is science is next week. That's why I'm already so amped up.
Yeah, and poetry is social studies is April 20th, and poetry is math, April 27th. Every single time, Mike's going to be giving us a tech tip, an easy way that we can involve tech in some of these activities. You guys can also provide some of those ideas as you're hearing Mike talk about this. How would we integrate this in the virtual learning setting or in the hybrid learning setting? Because all of this can be done easily that way. And I just love these little check-ins. I think it's just so powerful. And I really appreciated the staff meeting and thinking about people saying those 2 words. I mean, you could come up with 2 words and they don't have to necessarily make sense to everyone. It kind of piques their curiosity to get to know you better.
That's the whole point. You have to make sure, I'm doing it with my 4th graders. Feel free to modify. Like 6 words is just a suggestion. But like even if it's 3, even if it's 2, that's what it's about. And you have to make people aware that you're asking for their words, because you don't want them to say okay and good, because you really care. Like, you really caring about what they have to say is the power in all of this. And Tara is right. Like, you don't have to have immediate understanding. It's not up to the person who is hearing the poem to get it all. Right? How many times have you gone to the art gallery and looked at your favorite painting and you see new things every time, right? Like, it doesn't make Matisse spin in his grave that some people don't get what he was trying to say. You know, like it's about interaction, and it's about getting new things every time. And every time you have to dig deeper. Like, if somebody says the word puppy, right, because that's part of their emotional experience, then you are responsible. You are challenged to dig deeper on that and connect with them on that deeper level.
And I love the 6-word idea with him. I mean, Hemingway wrote that first poem that just blew everybody away, right? And I still think that is so powerful. And I love too that you and most people that use the 6 words don't make the students put them in some sort of context. Like, I just need to come up with 6 words that represent my school year this year as a teacher. And I mean, that could be in and of itself just incredibly creative. If you thought about sharing all those, if you're having one-on-one, that's fantastic. But if you thought about sharing all those 6 words with the colleague, even without names, 3rd grade teacher, or even without anything.
Very easy to make anonymous.
Individually, I think that would just be so powerful to see that we had a lot of things in common and a lot of feelings in common, just to bring that unity to the group. Because I guarantee you there's a lot of words that would be repeated or similar.
Plus, you shift the power. When you tell someone, I'm looking forward to your 6 words, you shift the power and you let them know that whatever 6 words you say are the 6 most important words I'm going to hear in that moment in my life.
Yeah.
Which is super powerful.
I love that so much. Well, Mike, we have thoroughly enjoyed you being here. We will be sharing out this video. So if some of your friends missed the show live, no worries. We will definitely be sharing it out on our YouTube link and sharing it out on social media.
Sorry, I just saw Rolly.
Oh, you
Roland. Sorry,
oh, here we
one
go.
of the best people I've ever met. That's him right there. Yeah. Oh, hi.
Aw.
Sorry, I totally interrupted, but I love that guy.
No, totally. Anytime. Anytime. So we have a lot of friends here, but if anybody missed the show, don't worry. We have the link so they can catch it on the playback. And Sean, I'm with you. They always go so fast. They always go fast when you're having fun. But people, Roland says, "What's up?"
Oh,
He's ready to connect. You are going to share your 6 words after this, I think.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for joining DBC Inc. Live. We are so excited about National Poetry Month. We're really excited about Mike's book, You Are Poetry. If you haven't picked up your copy, go up and click the link up or above, below, wherever you're watching, and click that link and go ahead and order your copy today. You will not want to miss out on this incredible book full of resources. You got a tiny bit of honest tonight. The book is chock-a-block full, and we will not be able to cover all of it in our lives in April. So you're going to want it. But for the meantime, we'll see you back next Tuesday at 6 p.m. And if they want to connect with you, Mike, where should they go to connect with you?
I'm on the old Twitter. I've just recently learned how to be good at it. It's at YouArePoetryEDU. Is my, I think it's called a Twitter handle, my Twitter handshake, my tweet thing, whatever it's called, that's what it is. Or under the hashtag YouArePoetry, I can find you there too. And I can't tell you how excited it makes me when people share their stuff with me, or ask me questions or challenge me to say, how do you make this COVID friendly, or what have you done with this in the past? Like there is nothing that gets me more excited than people bringing poetry into their lives. So hit me up. Let's do this.
Yes, and especially if you try any of the ideas from the live, be sure and tag hashtag YouArePoetry, and then find Mike at YouArePoetry and tag us, DBC Inc. We are excited about learning about what you're doing and what you're taking from the show. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you next Tuesday, 6 p.m.
Thanks, guys.